We have Miss Kayla Franklin. Give her a hand.
Sit up here. I'm not going to sit in the chair because I don't think I've earned that privilege, maybe. I don't feel I'm of the age, maybe. Mr. Twain, I was curious in your foray into what you were talking about, fast food.
Yo.
Did you ever go to a chicken place called KFC?
I haven't made it there yet, no.
Oh, you didn't meet the Colonel? Your doppelganger? Okay, just curious. But young people might have thought that's who you were. Oh, the Colonel's here. Where's a bucket of chicken? All right. So I'm Kayla Franklin, and I'm just going to share a true story that happened to me. And I just kind of want to preface it and say that this story has a lot of layers. But I don't really mean like layers of meaning, because there's not a lot of layers of meaning, so you don't have to look for those. More just like layers of kind of bad things, like a series of unfortunate events, maybe a little bit. But I was thinking about layers and how we often say, we use that metaphor, this is like an onion. There's lots of layers. And then I decided I really kind of hate that metaphor because I think of cutting into an onion and I just think of bitterness and crying. So I was thinking I'm going to make up a new metaphor, okay? And really this metaphor only really makes a lot of sense to me and maybe a couple people in this room, but I'll explain it. So I'm going to call this story a Natalie, okay? Okay, I'm going to call it that because Natalie is my sister, which explains why it makes a lot of sense to me and maybe not to you, but I'll explain why. My husband and I, Aaron, we lived with Natalie for a brief time. And we used to make fun of her. We used to tease her. In fact, all of her friends would tease her because it would be, this time of year, the winter, cold. And instead of wearing like a big jacket, like you would think, like most of us in this room probably have a warm jacket or like a parka or something, she either didn't have one or refused to wear one. So what would happen was she would come out of her room and we'd be like, Natalie, you don't want to go out in that t-shirt. It's pretty cold out. Oh, okay. So she'd go back into her room and maybe she'd throw on like a crocheted vest, right? Like a holy crocheted vest. We called them holy sweaters. She'd throw that on and be like, okay, that's not going to keep you warm outside. So she'd go back on and go back in and throw on something else, maybe another crocheted sweater, okay? Like somebody was learning how to crochet or knit, and they didn't really do such a good job, and it had holes all over in it, obviously not meant to keep you warm. And so then she'd go back in and maybe put on a knitted sweater. Okay, so 5 sweaters later and a scarf, she'd come out ready for the cold. So all that to say, she wore a lot of layers. This story is like a Natalie, a lot of layers. All right. Okay, so I am, in this story, I'm 19 years old, an adult, and I was dating my husband, who was not my husband at the time, obviously. We were dating, I was in college. And I heard about this missions trip to the Philippines. And I thought, oh, that sounds really cool. I'd love to go there. I think I'll do this trip. I think it'll be really fun. So I find out that a couple of my friends are interested too. In fact, one of my roommates at the time, her name was Trisha, was going on the trip. And her boyfriend, who happened to be roommates with Aaron, my boyfriend at the time, was going on the trip too. So we thought, oh, this will be a great time. So there's about 6 or 7 of us. And we decide we're gonna raise money. We're gonna go to the Philippines. It's gonna be an awesome adventure. So lo and behold, 8 months later, we get on a plane. We head over to the Philippines. On our way there, we had this long layover, like an 11-hour layover in Hong Kong. And raise your hand if you've been to Hong Kong. Anybody? Okay, you have. Okay. Hong Kong is a pretty cool, international, huge city, right? So we have this long layover. We get to the airport in Hong Kong, and if you've been to the airport in Hong Kong, it's huge, absolutely huge. This airport is so big that you have to take like a bullet train between the terminals, or between the gates. And probably the biggest airport I've been into up to that time was Chicago O'Hare. That's a fairly large airport, but this one was much, much bigger. So we go through this airport. We finally get to where we're going through, where they check your passports and they let you into the city. We go to the city, we do all the touristy things. don't have that long of time, we check out something. We have a meal, an amazing Chinese meal with these dumplings that were amazing. Anyway, so we do all that. We go back. We get on the plane. We go to the Philippines. We're there for about 7 days. We had a great time. We visited schools. We brought food to victims of fire in their village. It was just a really amazing time. Well, if you know anything about these kind of trips with young people or mission trips, they always give you like one free day, oh, you've done all this work, let's have a fun day. So our fun day was we got to go snorkeling, and I'd never been snorkeling. So this was really an adventure. We go out on this boat, we go snorkeling, and we're on this reef, and it's beautiful, and there's all these like amazing colorful fish, and you don't even have to, when you're snorkeling, you don't have to go down deep, you're just kind of at surface level, and the water was crystal clear. You could see all the way to the bottom of these fish, and it was just this experience that was like kind of transcendent. It was really amazing. Well, you might have noticed this about me, looking at me already. That let's just say I'm not the most ethnic of people. I'm not very dark toned. So I knew, before I go snorkeling, I gotta wear, a load of sunscreen, probably like a bucket full of sunscreen. So I did that. I did my due diligence. I put on my sunscreen to go snorkeling. Well, a couple things I didn't realize was that you're in the Philippines. You're really close to the equator. Okay, so you're even closer to the sun, right? That's how it works, right? Or something. It's like that. Anyway, the sun is at least more powerful. Let's just say. And then also, we were in the water all day long. We were in the salt water all day long. So, I didn't think to reapply sunscreen. So as we're heading back on this boat, it's this open boat, I have this bright idea. I'm like, I'm not going to get this chance again. Can I sit out on this little protruding bow part? And they said, sure, you can do that. Just know that once you're sitting there, you can't move because you could fall in the water and we can't turn the boat around fast enough. So you have to just stay right there. I go, okay, that'll be fine. So I'm sitting there on our way back, and I can see land, but it's pretty far away. And we're heading back to land, and as I'm sitting there, I literally can feel my skin burning, mostly on my legs. My legs are just burning, and not just like burning, not like a tingle, like, oh, this is a little uncomfortable, like boiling. Like I'm being boiled alive as we're on this boat going back. So we get to land, and I realize this is not going to be good. It's not going to be fun. But there's not a whole lot I can do. The next day we're leaving to go back home. So I decide, well, I've got a little bit of time. I'm going to go to this market and try to find some aloe vera for my skin. Okay. Another thing I didn't really count on being in the Philippines. They don't really use aloe vera. They don't have a need for that, or any kind of sunscreen relief. That's just not really a thing. So I'm looking through all these shelves, and I find this bottle that has like a tiger on it. And I think this is like some kind of skin lotion. I don't know. This story's not really going where you think it's going. So I buy it, and I just hope. I'm thinking, well, I hope this isn't some weird, illegal drug that I'm inadvertently taking onto a plane to bring back to America. So there's that little niggling fear in my mind, but I have to do something. I'm literally on fire, and I look like a lobster. I'm sure I looked insane to people there. We get into the airport in the Philippines. We're waiting to board our plane, and I had all my stuff, and remember, I'm in pain, and I'm all of 19 years old, so I'm in pain. We're waiting to get on our plane, and I leave my purse with the friend that I mentioned, David. He's the boyfriend of my friend Trisha. I leave my purse with him. He's playing his a Game Boy, right? So I leave my purse with him and go to the bathroom and come back. Another thing I didn't realize. If a teenage boy is playing on a Game Boy or some kind of phone or handheld device, and he's a teenage boy, you probably shouldn't trust him with your stuff. But I did. So we get on the plane. We have another layover in Hong Kong. We get there, and we're about ready to get on the plane, and you know how they check your ID right before you board. So everybody else goes on the plane in our group, 8 people, and I go to get out my stuff and realize, uh-oh, where's my purse? It's here. I know it's here. I'm rummaging through my stuff. I have my pillow. I'm rummaging in my pillow. It's here. And you know that feeling when you know something bad is happening and you start to maybe panic a little, but you're trying to be cool. Be cool, be cool, it's here. You're gonna find it, it's all right. Nothing, this bad thing could not possibly be happening. And I rummage through and I'm starting to, that feeling is leaving my gut and coming up into my eyes and coming out as liquid. And as I'm standing there, they're starting to realize, the ticket holders are starting to realize, I don't have my passport, I don't have my ID. They're starting to get a little bit panicky, but they don't truly panic until I'm truly crying. And this is something, maybe this is just my slight observation culturally of maybe the Chinese people, or at least at that time, they were not super comfortable with my tears. So I'm crying, I'm full out crying. Okay, remember again, I'm this mature 19-year-old adult, right? I'm full on crying, realizing I don't have any way to get on this plane, and all my friends are on this plane going back to America. And you know, there's this reel of, I'm gonna end up in a gulag, okay? So, even though I know that's not, anyway. So I start really crying, and they bring over like some kind of big wig in the airline, and he goes, oh, he sees me crying, and it's almost like my tears are poisonous, like he might catch something from me. He goes, stop crying, which only makes me cry more. So I'm crying and really starting to lose it, and everybody's on the plane. Finally they send somebody, and my friend Trisha, my dear friend, who is an amazing, she's like the hero of the story. They allow her to come off the plane. Remember, she's also 19. She comes off the plane and says, I'll stay with her. So she gets off the plane willingly, comes and stays with me, and they tell me, okay, if you don't have your ID, you're gonna have to go through the consulate and get an emergency ID. I'm like, okay, where is that? They're like, that's in the city. Oh, okay. So they tell me, you're gonna have to go through Chinese immigration. And I'm thinking again, gulag, Chinese version of gulag, whatever that is. So so okay, we're walking to the immigration is in the airport, so we go there, and as we're heading there, and as he drops us off, this bigwig from the airline, he says to me a very cryptic thing. He says, right before he leaves, good thing you're an American, and walks away. And I think, oh, okay, I'm glad I'm an American, but I have no way to prove it. Oh no! So I'm freaking out still. Anyway, they get me through, and then I say, well, where am I supposed to stay? What are we supposed to do? Because the consulate's now closed. What are we supposed to do this evening? So they say, okay, you're going to have to call the WYMCA. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, okay, I guess I can stay in a homeless shelter. I guess that'll be okay. That's a place to stay. There'll be a bed. But I'm imagining, like, you know, rows and rows and rows of beds of people, displaced people like me, heading off to a gulag somewhere. So we get in a taxi, they drive us there, we walk in, and we're like, this is the WYMCA, and it's a marble lobby, like a marble, all of it, floor to ceiling, like marble and beautiful, and people in like tuxedos. I'm thinking, what kind of WYMCA is this? Like, what did I stumble into? We go to our room. It's a nice room, beautiful hotel, actually, probably one of the nicer I've ever stayed in. I'm thinking, this isn't too bad. This is kind of working out to my advantage. Anyway, I decide I should probably call my boyfriend Aaron. I should probably call him in his dorm room and tell him, you know, I'm not going to be there with everybody else because he's going to come and pick me up. Not going to be there. So I call him, and I tried to time it just right because the timing's all, you know, wonky. I tried to time it just right to reach him before he goes to his 8 o'clock class. But I got the timing wrong, and I guess I called him at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I call. It rings a few times. Actually, I think it rang fully, and then I called again. And he answers, and he goes, hello? I go, hey Aaron, it's me. I'm trying to keep the tears out of my voice. So I probably sound more like, hey Aaron, it's me. He goes, hey. And I said, so I don't want you to be alarmed, but I'm stuck in China with no identification. Okay. Here I imagine in my head, he'd go, oh no honey, what are we gonna, we'll get you back, it's okay. He goes, all right, have fun. So, I don't think he quite grasped the gravity of my situation. I was only having a little fun because the hotel was nice, but you know, I was still worried. There's still the gulag. So the next day, we go to the U.S. consulate to get my emergency passport. We go there, we get in the line, we stand in this long line. You hand over all your belongings. You're not allowed to take like anything in there except the necessary paperwork. So we have to hand over whatever we have. I don't even have a purse, so there's not much that I have. But my friend Trisha has her purse, her phone, her camera, all that stuff. Her passport, everything she needs. We hand that over, get a little like number tile. Well, I'm not sure which of us decided I was the person who should hold that number tile. Because I guess we did, and I had that tile. We go through, I get my emergency passport, which was actually really quick, considering what it could have been. Get that, I come back to retrieve our stuff with the tile and realize I don't have the tile.
Oh, no.
And I'm thinking, here's my friend who got off the plane to be with me, and I'm about to lose her stuff too. Thinking, gulag sounds pretty good for me right now. Anyway, it just so happens as we're in the line, and I don't have my ticket, we're going to try to beg for mercy that that's our stuff. A person right in front of us is trying to hand in our number and is pointing at our stuff, trying to say it's his.
Oh.
Right in front of us, which is kind of fortunate because we were able to go, wait a second, you don't have a pink camera. This is a man, right? That's not your pink camera. We described to them the rest of the stuff, what's in there, and thankfully they give it over to us, and the guy says like, oh, I made a mistake, right? So, crisis averted there. We rush over to the airport. They tell us, okay, well, we can try to put you on a standby plane, but we don't know. You could get on this plane that leaves in a half hour, or you might have to wait a week. And I'm thinking, a week. Again, I'm 19 years old. I have no ID, nothing really, and I might have to stay in that beautiful, but still, the YWMCA. So finally they tell us, they can't tell you until like right at the last minute, okay, you got on this plane. So they tell us, you got on this plane, but it's way, way over on some other terminal, on some other gate, and you're gonna have to book it. So we are sprinting through this airport. Now keep in mind, this whole time, I found out later, I had a 2nd-degree sunburn on my legs. So not only are we sprinting through this airport with what little things we have, but I'm running like this, and almost crying, more like, Trisha, wait, Trisha! And we are running to catch our bullet train. We get to the airport, our terminal finally, and we go through, and the whole time I'm anticipating something is going to go wrong here. So I'm not going to be allowed on the plane. Finally, I get on the plane, sit down. My legs are burning and on fire, and I'm in total agony, but I'm totally excited to go home. And we made it home. The only real moral I can think of to this story is maybe a couple. One is, it's good to have a really good friend who will stay with you. And she is still one of my best friends. Those two are married, and they live in Eastern Oregon. We're still some of our best friends. And the other is, if you can go through China without a passport and come out on the other side unscathed, I think there's a lot of adventure you can do and not be too afraid of what's going to happen. And that's my story.
Secretary of State.